for this community conversation, Can We Talk, a community dialogue for East and West Charlotte. So why are we here? Let me sum it up like this. I came to Charlotte in 1981 as a freshman at Johnson C. Smith University on a tennis scholarship. I lived on Beatties Ford Road for 4 years as a student. I attended church on Friendship Baptist Church on Beatties Ford Road. I go to Neil's Barbershop for well over 25 years in the corner of Beatties Ford and Oak Line. And I work here at Johnson C. Smith University, and I love this side of town. I used to take the bus to number 7 to Eastland Mall, which was the flagship mall in the city of Charlotte back then. I sold clothing at Webster's Menswear and J.A. Jones in Eastland Mall. When I got married, I lived in Burnham Woods, which is right off the Albemarle Road. And I used to go to dinner at Grady's and shop at Upton's. I'm telling my age. And East Charlotte was a thriving part of the city of Charlotte. Fast forward a number of years and things have changed somewhat. If you were to take a picture of West Trade Street, Beatties Ford Road in 1981, when I was a freshman, and compare that picture to 4 years ago, many of the developments that you saw in 81 were the same, except that the businesses along the way are closed. In short, not a lot has happened on this side of town on the West Trade Street, Beatties Ford Road corridor, until Johnson C. Smith University stepped up and put a $30 million economic development plan on the corridor. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. And in West and East Charlotte, Eastland Mall gave way to South Park Mall, changing demographics in the area, and that side of town has changed. But we believe both East and West Charlotte is time for a rebound and a comeback. And we believe that the people power between those citizens who are concerned about the economic growth, the health of West Charlotte, combined with those in East Charlotte who are concerned about the same thing: corridor revitalization, neighborhood improvement, economic development, a better quality of life. That if we would work together and sing from the same hymn book, that we believe our leaders will listen. If the people will lead, the leaders will follow. If the people will lead, the leaders will follow. So tonight we're going to have a conversation, and we have excellent folks, community participants here to answer questions and give presentations. But before we get started, I would be remiss if I don't give the opportunity for all the elected officials and former elected officials who are in the audience. Would you just please stand and acknowledge yourself? I want to make sure that we get all of our elected officials who are here today that are not on the panel. I thought I saw Beth is here from the Charlotte City Council, former school board member. Just introduce yourself to everybody from where you stand. Louise Wiz, former school board member. Richard is here from the school board. Thank you, Richard. Nancy Carter, former councilwoman, my favorite best friend, is here in the back. Thank you, Nancy, for being here. And now I have the opportunity to introduce 3 individuals, 2 of which I have the opportunity to serve with as a member of the City Council. One who is doing a very, very good job representing East Charlotte, who preceded Nancy Carter. The first one is John Autry. John is a fantastic council member. John gets it. He understands community empowerment. He understands helping people. He understands changing circumstances, and John will be up here to give a presentation. After John, we will hear from James Smudgy Mitchell. James and I were elected together in 1999 as a member of the Charlotte City Council. He had the good sense to stay there. I tried to do something different, and it's hard, but it's fair. But James has been a community advocate for West Charlotte since 1999. He serves as the chairman of the city's Economic Development Committee. James will be making a presentation as well. And last but not least, Patsy Kinsey, who has been a mentor to me when we were on city council. She was someone when things weren't going my way and I started pouting, she would kind of straighten me up and tell me to fly right. Really a good friend. And all three of these individuals have one thing in common. They care about the community that they represent. And that's why they're here today. So, without further ado, let me bring to the podium my good friend representing District 5, John Autry.
Well, I'm really happy that you folks are willing to come out on Wednesday evening and share this opportunity with you. As the Senator said, I am John Autry, and I represent District 5, which is the east side of Charlotte. And I assumed a role that had a lot of challenges with it. But I try to look at all those challenges as opportunities for new kinds of solutions. And that's kind of what we want to talk about a little bit this evening. I'm supposed to provide you with some information about the overview of the streetcar project. First of all, the streetcar project that would provide rail transit to East Charlotte through the center city to the west side was a part of the 2030 transit plan that was approved in 2006. So this is not something that just popped up out of the air. This is part of our comprehensive transit plan for the city of Charlotte. What we have currently underway is the Streetcar Starter project, which is 1.5 miles from the Transportation Center in the center city up to Presbyterian Hospital along Elizabeth Avenue. Now, this phase of the project will not have one of the modern streetcars that would eventually be deployed in the east and the west. It'll be using the historic, restored trolley from back in the 20s. And that's okay, but I don't want people to misconstrue that as, oh, that's what's going to be running up and down there in 2030 when the project is complete, because that's not the situation at all. The cost of this project is $36.99 million. We have a grant from the FTA of $24.99 million, $12 million from the city's CIP plan. And the current status is that started construction in December of last year, and the service should be beginning in March of 2015. The projected ridership for that project would be 1,500 boardings a day. So, but it will not have any fares charged because it will be supplanting what we now see as the Gold Rush, which is already fully subsidized transit opportunity as it is. So then whenever we get to the extension project, which was that was proposed by the city manager last June in the CIP, that would be another 2.5 miles. So that would be running from the east to Sunnyside. And so the streetcar task force determined getting across Independence Boulevard is not going to be just a little walk in the park. Getting it down to the central area and getting it Central Avenue where it's ready to start making the next phase running right down this Central Avenue that will eventually terminate at the Eastland Community Transit Center. That would have a cost of $119 million. And what's before us has been proposed that we use property taxes to do that. Property taxes has been another area of contention, and we continue to try to work through that. The fares that would be charged for that would be consistent with the current CATS rates, and that the boardings on a daily basis, we would anticipate 4,500 boardings a day. So I find it very interesting that from 1.5 miles and 1,500 boardings a day to 2.5 miles, that many more people being served is pretty significant, I thought. There is some things to consider as to why this project is looked at by several of my colleagues as a transformative kind of project. This data was used last year. You should be familiar with it by now. That what it shows are how the property values have been depreciating in a large portion of the city. You see it's concentrated heavily in the west side and the east side and across the northern part of what is Center City. So it kind of gives us kind of a bow tie shape. This is going to be the kind of thing that we hope would incentivize redevelopment. Developers tell us that development is going to follow infrastructure. So by putting infrastructure in place, then we have ways where more transit-oriented development can take place. We can get more people in and out of the center city into the destinations of where they may work. It's also going to connect Johnson C. Smith with Johnson and Wales and Central Piedmont Community College. And the economic impact, aside from all these ancillary pieces, would be about 609 jobs estimated to be brought forth with that project. Another thing that we're challenged with in those areas are the way the elementary schools have been working. We've got high concentration of free and reduced lunch on the east side and the west side. There is significant opportunities to help lift up these communities. And having better property values, having more people that are going to benefit from these kinds of projects are hopefully going to take some of the burden off of what's the southern wedge right now, where a lot of the revenue that the city uses comes from that area. So by incentivizing and being a catalyst for the east and the west side to help raise the values up in those areas by a project like the streetcar project, we would relieve some of the burden from the southern wedge and let the east and the west be better contributors to what we need in the city to keep moving this city forward. This shows us what the bond referenda history for the city is. And as you see, there was $200+ million that was approved in 2010, and there is no future right now of any kind of capital improvement plan on the books. That is what is before us to be determined how we move that forward with the city council in the next couple of months. And not having a capital improvement program in place does put the city's bond rating at risk. There's been a lot of talk about property taxes. I get emails all the time from folks, don't raise my property taxes. We're already the highest in the state. How can we be considering such kinds of projects whenever we're already overinflated with our taxes? Well, this illustrates that Charlotte is not the most expensive city to live in. Greensboro would have that honor, followed by Durham and Winston-Salem. And we're actually just a little bit more expensive in the property tax realm than what Raleigh is at this point. Some of the other reasons that we felt like that the streetcar was going to be important was, to make those key connections along trade and Triumph, the transit center. If you look at what has happened in Portland along their streetcar line, they've seen over $3 billion worth of economic development in that corridor where the streetcar exists now in Portland. And, I'd certainly like to see that kind of improvement on the east side and the west side here in Charlotte. So we say, why would we want to use property tax dollars to do this? Well, the old funding models that we're used to, where the federal government comes in with 50%, the state provides 25%, and the local municipality provides 25%, is not currently in the foreseeable future as a solution for what our needs are in the city. If we have the streetcar project as a part of our transit plan, we have to schedule these things as resources are available. So we're trying to make it part of the CIP so that it can help, so that property taxes would be used to start this project. But this is just another phase of the project. It's eventually going to run from Rosa Parks Transit Center out here on Beatties Ford at I-85, through the center city, all the way to the Eastern Transit Center down there where the old Eastern Mall used to be on Central Avenue. This is the way modern cities connect with each other, is rail transit. And folks, the questions about why a streetcar, why not use a light rail? Well, the light rail would be a lot more expensive to build on the east and the west sides because of the need for rail right-of-ways. We would have to acquire land. Houses would have to be taken. Businesses may have to be taken to do that. It's a lot less expensive to implement a streetcar system than it would be a light rail. Plus, you don't have to build those stations. You don't have to build the parking lots. Remember the estimates of what the ridership would be? It's always going to be higher, the blue line. Because ridership is in such demand, they have to add more cars. More cars than will actually fit on the current stations. So the stations are going to be expanded so that more cars can be added and more people will ride it. I think we heard 2 years ago that the park and ride lots were not built large enough. So, you know, historically, we've got a great example running down along beside South Boulevard today of how a whole community can be transformed by a transit project. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much. I'm going to bring up my colleague James Mitchell. Everybody knows Smudgy. Everybody loves Smudgy. Please welcome with me Smudgy Mitchell. And again, just get us started. Thanks, Johnson. We have some unelected officials to come in and join us, so I want to recognize them at this time. I see Councilman Andy Dooley from District 6. Andy, stand up, please. County Commissioner from District 3, George Dunlap. And the chair of our Transportation Committee, and the chairman of our Transportation Committee is also City Councilman at Large, Mr. David Howard. David, there we go. Now you all been sitting down, and John and Patsy can tell you, I don't like dead energy wherever I go. So I got to make sure you all are alive. I know you worked hard and you got here, but hold your neighbor by the hand. Hold your neighbor by the hand. I'll tell you why. John said it's going to be a whole thing between all of us. It's about transforming those corridors. Streetcar will be a catalyst for economic development, redevelopment, and job growth along the entire corridor, particularly around the train stops. Streetcar provide a greater public transit connection to job centers across the city. And I know Ms. Myers is here, but also Michael Smith is here. Michael, are you here? Please raise your hand. Thank you, Michael. And Ms. Myers, please stand and be recognized for Center City Partners. Thank you so much for what you do. We talk about economic and the impact we have economic development and redevelopment catalysts. Keep in mind we're talking about job growth. There's an estimate that Streetcar could create during the construction a total of 609 jobs. We're talking about new development units along the Streetcar, estimate 9,500 new dwelling units. And then you say, well, Councilman, what type of mixed use are you talking about? There's potential, we think, 4.3 million square foot of new office space, a total of 370,000 of retail space, and 1,100 new hotel rooms. Streetcar, people say, what does it convey? And I think we heard loud and clear, most of our studies we found in Oregon, people who live along the streetcar corridor talking about it feels permanent. I feel like I'm part of something special. And I think we had a local TV station recently did a special on the impact it has made in Portland. Here you see Central Elizabeth Avenue and Hawthorne lane stop of the future design of the streetcar. Here we see, as it would approach the Great Mosaic Village, let me give a shout out to Senator Malcolm Graham and all those who remember Johnson C. Smith University for stepping up and making this a reality. All those at Johnson C. Smith, please stand at this time. Cheryl Hampton, I see you back there. Senator Graham, any other faculty members? Al Austin, thank you, JCSU, for your commitment. Oh, how can I leave out Mr. Mike Griffin, who was the developer. Mike, stand up, please. Don't be bashful. Mike Griffin, please stand up and recognize. Streetcar is one of the single largest investments we have in the CIP, total of $119 million. We truly think that Elizabeth Avenue, Hawthorne Lane stop, and the Mosaic Village will create about $29.1 million in mixed use. So people, the question they're asking, if you build it, will they come? And I truly believe if you build a streetcar, development will occur. The Griffith brothers made an early investment already, but we have other developers who are so passionate about being a part of a redevelopment along the streetcar. And ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to look too far. You looked at the Business Journal about 2 months ago,
They talked about all the new development around the light rail. And the question people had about the light rail was, if you build it, will they come? So a true test of model has already occurred in Charlotte. We think the east and west side needs that same transform catalyst to create a new east and west side that we'll all be proud of. I can't wait till we have the conversation, the questions. If you don't ask a question when you leave here, we're going to raise your property taxes. So I'm sure there are going to be a lot of questions for us this evening. Last and certainly not least, I have to embarrass her because Malcolm mentioned her earlier, but it's very rewarding to have someone on council who's more level-headed than your District 2 representative. I can get impatient at times, and Patsy always tell me, James, let's just read and be calm, and things will work out. So she's like a common conscience for me, and she's been a true leader on our city council. Without further ado, my colleague, Patsy Kinsey.
I hate following James. I can't do it. As he gets up here and gets everybody excited. He's great to work with, let me tell you. Well, I thought I'd do something a little different. You've heard an overview from John and the economic development story from James. I thought maybe I'd just touch a little bit on the history of the streetcar here in Charlotte. And let me right away give some credit to Kevin Kelly, who researched and wrote a history of the Charlotte transit system back in 1985. So much of what I'm going to say, I'll let you from his research. Actually, Charlotte's transit history began in 1887 with our horse-drawn streetcars. Let me stop right now and say that my dear late mother, who was born in 1911 and rode the streetcars, told me that Charlotte did not have trolleys, they had streetcars. My dear late friend Clarence Custer, who was about the same age as my mother, I think they went to school together, also said we didn't have trolleys, they were streetcars, and we didn't pronounce them streetcar, we said streetcar. Drop the T. So if I ever hear anyone say trolley, I'm probably going to correct them. Although I know that you sort of use those terms interchangeably, but actually in Charlotte, they were called streetcars. The original horse car lines followed the main corridors of travel. Tracks were laid from the Southern Railway Station on West Trade. How many of you here remember the old Southern Railway Station? That was our Sunday afternoon entertainment. Mother would take my sister and me down and we watched the trains come in. And I hate so much that it was torn down. And ironically, the new, I guess it's called a multimodal, will be stationed. It's going just about on the same location. Streetcars, I'm sorry. The streetcars, the tracks were laid from the Southern Railway Station down West Trade, East Trade, and Elizabeth Avenue to Hawthorne Lane. About 4 miles. The second line started at the old Seaboard Airline Station on North Trine, and I suspect most of you know where that is. It's the urban center. They ran along North and South Tryon streets to Morehead Street, about 2.5 miles. Well, railway service, the streetcar, stimulated growth of the city by making residential development of outlying areas a possibility. In 1891, the Charlotte Street Railway Company began electric streetcar service and extended service along South Tryon. It went to South Boulevard, down East Boulevard, and to Lotta Park. Additional electric lines were soon constructed, and 4 loop lines were established in the political districts, 1st Ward, 2nd Ward, 3rd Ward, and 4th Ward. And this map is, I'm not sure, I think this was 1928, but the blue lines represent the streetcar lines at that time. And of course the orange line would be the one that we were hopefully getting from east to west. Lines were eventually extended out to North Charlotte. And there was a loop through the Dilworth neighborhood and an extension from Hawthorne Lane into Myers Park. There was also a line out to the town of Hoskins. A small independent company built the Plaza line from Hawthorne Lane via Central Avenue and the Plaza to Mecklenburg Avenue. Now, in some other research, I think it was Tom Hanchett, called that the Chatham line. The developer Paul Chatham actually developed what we now call Plaza Midwood, but then was called Chatham Estates. None of these lines at this time were owned by the city. Streetcars stopped running, giving way to buses starting in 1938. The last full day of regular streetcar service was Friday, March the 11th, but a ceremonial last run was made with streetcars down East Trade Street and Elizabeth Avenue on March 15th, 1938. Sometimes that date is used as the last day of the Charlotte streetcars. Obviously, there's much more history of our transit system, but it would be really about our bus system, which Charlotte purchased from Charlotte City Coach Lines, which I think was really Duke Power, on June 24th, 1976. We only owned the bus line here in Charlotte since 1976. Now, how can we who are here tonight, if we really believe the streetcar project, make a difference? First, we have to believe that we can make a difference. How do we make that difference? We must encourage dialogue, just as we're having tonight. We must talk about the project and bring others together for the cause. We must promote cooperation, develop partnerships, and establish common ground, and we must not exclude anyone. We need help from all segments of our community if we are to see this project succeed. We must become engaged in the process and work together toward a shared goal. That will be my challenge to you tonight. Work together. If we truly believe this is a project that is important to our community, to our entire community, it's going to benefit everyone, not just those of us who live on the east or the west side. It is good for the entire community. If we believe that, then let's work together and make it happen. Thank you.
He's so involved, and what's the importance to us? 4 years ago, Dr. Carter invited me to join the university. I'm an alumni here, to help with the revitalization of the Beatties Ford Road corridor. We started at the bridge near the underpass by the I-77 Bojangles restaurant, and to the historic Excelsiors Club, which is our vision plan. We work with property owners, developers, the City of Charlotte, community organizations who laid the foundation for all that we've done to come up with a comprehensive strategy to begin to bridge the gap between Johnson C. Smith University and uptown Charlotte. We did a bridge project in conjunction with the Arts and Science Council, about a $180,000 project to bring light underneath that I-77 underpass to make it safe and clean and make that connection between uptown Charlotte and Johnson C. Smith University. We converted an old garage into a teaching facility for the performing arts here at Johnson C. Smith University. So now students go and take dance classes and art classes, and there's a black box theater there, right on West Trade Street, Beatties Ford Road. We partnered with Mike Griffin to turn over an old gas station. Those who are longtime Charlotte teens remember the gas station on West Trade Street. We converted that lot to a Mosaic Village, 4-story parking deck, 7,500 square feet of retail, 80 suites.